You can say it once or 100 times.
Assalamu alaikum. Yes, a very warm welcome to School Matters on Radio Al Ansar. I'm sounding a bit down and, it's the tiredness. It's getting up so early in the morning, going late. Yes, teachers also get depressed and sad and angry going to school. Yes, well, anyway, yes, I'm your host, Sumaya Khan. Well, I'm always honest and I keep it real. I'm going to, what's the word? Go on all high and hyped up. But life carries on, another year carries on. As we step into the new school year, educators started last week, towards the end of the week, and Monday full time. And learners officially will be going to school tomorrow. So, the school year, many parents are filled with hope, excitement, anxiety, but also concerns about their children, will they cope academically, emotionally, and socially? Often the early signs that a child is struggling in learning or communication are very subtle, and easily missed. I know sometimes even as professionals, educators, we tend to forget our own children and really look in it. We say, no, it's just the phase they're going through and, it'll just pass. But sometimes we do need to really look into it and professional help. So tonight's topic is back to school, spotting early barriers in your child's learning and communication. This is an important conversation for parents, caregivers, and educators who want to support children before small challenges become big obstacles and where you find out a bit later on in their schooling. So joining me this evening is Sister RAEESA SHAIKH, qualified speech and language pathologist, who will help us understand what red flags to look at for and when to seek support and how early interventions can make a lasting difference in a child's school journey. So stay tuned, engage with us, and let's work together to give our children the strong foundation they observe and they require, especially for the parents. They need to look at it, see if they notice anything, because as they say, a parent's intuition is so good. So continue to observe, especially when it's the first time going to school. So tonight we'll be exploring why the early school years are so critical for identifying learning barriers, what early signs parents should be looking out for, and how difficulties such as speech and language delays, attention challenges like ADHD, autism, auditory, processing, and sensory, or motor difficulties can impact a child's classroom experience and also behavior and just demeanor in a whole. We'll also discuss why, the wait and see approach, what I just mentioned earlier on, can be harmful and what steps parents and teachers should take when concerns arise. So let's begin by looking at, things that early school phase in such a crucial time for identifying barriers to learning and communication. In studio, not a first time to School Matters, we have Sister RAEESA SHAIKH. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you so much for having me.
Wa alaikum salam. Yes, alhamdulillah. Always so bubbly and always so happy to have you, positivity. So, you'll be starting going to schools very soon.
Yes. Sumaya, I must say, you were mentioning all the emotions that parents will feel when their kids leave tomorrow, but you forgot one. And the main one is relief.
As we said, as we all had this joke at work, you know what? Parents are so thrilled. They're so happy. They'll give us, I think, the year-end gift now. Take them, have them. And we are like, oh, God, maybe we, colleagues of mine say, maybe we have to start topping up on the dye or extra spares met or deep heat or
double coffee.
Exactly. And summer is not helpful. In fact, in the government sector, we're not blessed with air cons. We have to make it work.
We sweat it out.
We have to sweat it out. Our whole, when you look at colleagues in lots of government schools, they make their own uniforms, especially the ladies, where the scarf is tied like a bandana, the clothes are taken out and a captain is gone because it's like scorching hot.
I know.
And the numbers sometimes go up to 60.
Wow.
So that is like, wow. So as you're aware, if you can do that, alhamdulillah, you can cope. Umrah is a breeze. Umrah is a breeze. Umrah is a breeze. This is such a vital topic because first-time parents, lots of us will never ever think this. even with younger children, we'll say, no, it's just a phase, or it's just a holiday, the behavior's changed. But we don't know the telltale signs, and generally educators, the primary school educators, like around maybe grade 3, 4, 5, or 6, pick up these barriers, and then sometimes it's too late because the child is too young when it comes to interventions like putting them into a special government school. There's a waiting list. You have to be a certain age, and unfortunately, this is a harsh reality. We cannot cater for all the learners with barriers. So why is it in the early school phase such a critical time for spotting barriers to learning and communication?
Okay, let's think about this. So we've just had matric results come out, and I know that parents and students had a lot of stress. Some people have relief and excitement and joy at their results, and others are like, oh, I could have done better. I should have studied a little bit more. Maybe I should have got extra help for this subject. Maybe I need to rewrite something. So there's a lot of high intensity emotions going around. But let's take that back. When did that start? When did that learning journey start? So we look at grade 10, 11, and 12, and we look at those are the most important years in a child's schooling career because that determines the rest of their life. But in truth, and if we're honest, and if we really think about it, that journey starts when a child is 2 years old and 3 years old and 4 years old, and they start going to school and they start learning to read and write. That's really when we're setting them up for success or failure, but we don't know it. So that's what we're here to talk about today. So early intervention and looking at children in these as young as 2 years old and how they're learning and how they approach their world. Are they curious? Are they afraid? Are they anxious? Do they ask questions? Do they take turns in a conversation? When they're at school, we look at things like, oh, do they understand rhyming words? Can they break up sounds in a word? Can they answer questions when the teacher asks? Do they participate in a group discussion? While on one level, we don't expect all kids to perform exactly the same way. There are certain milestones that we need to meet. And the reason we do this is because before we teach a child concepts, so before we get into learning reading, writing, spelling, math, we actually have to prime our children and equip them for how to learn. And that is what we're here to speak about, is that if we miss that stage of how do I teach my child how to approach learning in a way that will support them through their primary school, high school, and matric years, we'll actually go into some of the specifics as we go on in the show. But basically, this is what we're looking at, is that,
Exactly. Well, as parents sometimes and as adults, we don't even know the way how to go about it. When you tend to talk to parents, when you call them for consults, they as lost. Doesn't mean if a parent is a professional or someone who has tertiary or somebody who is sharp. I'll say it in a layman's English, but they don't know the telltale signs. They don't know, So what are some early signs parents should watch for in the first year or two of school?
Okay, so the first thing I'm going to say is that parents need to, and you spoke about this, trust their intuition. But like you're saying, as a parent, it is actually not your job to know about learning outcomes for your child or whether they're struggling at school. However, and I'm going to appeal to all of our parents, you need to take a proactive role in your child's learning. You need to advocate for your child. You are the strongest supporter, and you are going to be on your child's team for the rest of their life. So when it comes to school, we should not assign learning to just the teacher or just the school, because actually it starts at home. So this is what parents need to look out for. They need to speak with the teacher frequently. I know they meet the teacher on the first day of school and it's usually very pleasant, but oftentimes after that, and you would know, we don't see parents for the rest of the year.
Or you should fight when they get the reports.
Exactly. They come at the end of the year to fight because now the results are not what they hope for. So the first thing is communication with the teacher. So they need to know this week, this term, this this year, what is my child going to be focusing on, and how can I support them at home? So in the first year or two, we want to look at things like, how's their speech and language? Do they communicate when they speak? Are they easily understood by an unfamiliar adult? When they answer questions, is it logical and in a sequence? Do they tell stories with really nice details in them? Do they understand social communication and how to speak to a friend versus an adult? We want to look at things like, how do they follow instructions? So a parent could look at things like, if you tell your child, can you get me a cup and a spoon and the dishcloth from the kitchen?
Yeah.
Will they bring one or two of the items and forget it? Will they go to the kitchen and forget all three items? Because these simple things are actually indicators of possible difficulties they would be having at school. So if you notice that, oh, my child doesn't want to do homework when they get home, or it's always a fight, or homework takes longer than it should, or I teach a concept to my child, they'll understand it today, come back to it a week later, they've forgotten. These are small signs that there could be something wrong, but you still wouldn't know. So go and speak to your teacher and say, I've noticed this, my child is struggling with this. Is this normal, or should I be concerned? That's the first step.
Do you know, and sometimes parents are also in denial. They don't we it. It's no, the mom's to blame. No, you took up to your dad's family. Or dad will say, no, it's not me, it's coming. We look for excuses or something, but the back of us, in our minds, we know there's something amiss there. Yeah.
Okay, I absolutely love this. Let's talk about it. I often hear, but all the boys in our family are like this. Oh. I'm like, as a professional, I have to be very polite and listen. But I also know that just because something is familiar to you or common in your family doesn't mean that your child has to struggle through it. The physical things, like if my child can't see the board, I will get him glasses. But why is it that if he's struggling to learn a concept or to focus or to participate or to learn to read and write, then I'm filled with fear? Why is that? So as parents, we need to really sit with ourselves in those moments where you feel like, oh no, maybe they'll outgrow it. Stop yourself. Read A'udhu and Bismillah. Make your connection with Allah. Connect to your heart and ask yourself, okay, what's going on here? Ya Allah, please show me, guide me. What am I meant to do? Do I need to get extra help? Do I need to do extra work at home? Do I need to support my child? What does my child need? Because then it's not about you as the parent and your fears. It's really fulfilling your role and your manner as a parent.
True.
That I need to support my child.
Do you know, RAEESA, sometimes the truth is life is so busy. As a working parent, there's no time to really, everything is like going home, you're rushing, you're seeing to meals, you're seeing to the chores at home or whatever needs to be done. And parents are just too busy. There's just too busy to sit down and just relax. I think the only time they do that is when they go to bed. And that's the culture. I know I had a psychologist, and from investigations of just negative incidents or issues, related to depression and a whole lot of things, boils down to life is so busy.
Absolutely.
And to switch off, it's like becoming like a norm, like how we open a tap, water comes out. So it's expected that this is how life is, and life is not like that. Everyone is so busy. So
okay,
slow down.
Yeah, right. So being busy, is it a bad thing? No, it's necessary. We need to put food on the table, pay school fees, pay the rent,
now it's like buying
mortgage, pay your car. Exactly.
No, it's school fees now. It's like buying cars. Second-hand car, maybe. I actually saw some articles, like there's so much this part of the year where they're saying it's a bit ridiculous the amount of school fees South Africans pay.
It is.
There's some schools which are like over 300,000. Yes, Zach said, sure. Zach, you can buy your first car with that money. Huh? Imagine that he has children. No, but that's the harsh reality.
So let's look at it. We're not expecting parents to be superheroes, superhuman, or do more than they're capable. But we are asking parents to look at their role of being a parent in a different light. You're not just meant to caregive for your child, which is to send them to school, to feed them, to make sure they're in good health and clothe them, put a roof over their head. You actually have to build them up and prepare them for a life and a world which is very different from the one you're living in now.
Exactly. The other one, what you said, was like what our parents used to tell us and our grandparents. You got a
Yeah.
roof over your head, you got food on the table, and you can survive.
That's it. You should be happy.
Exactly. But, there's a hadith too that also says, you can't grow your children in the time when you grew up, because the times are different.
That world doesn't exist anymore. And we know that. So for parents, my advice would be, yes, we're really busy, but raising children takes a lot of presence and awareness. So even if you can't give your child 5 hours in the day, maybe you can only do 1 hour. But in that 1 hour, put your phone away. Put your laptop away. Switch off any screens, and give them quality attention.
RAEESA, how possible is that? I try my best. For like about maybe 2 years at home, I try not to. Because you don't realize it takes away so much of time. But unfortunately, sometimes we need to do it. But you need to also like set boundaries.
Yeah.
Because you realize like your child is like 3 and the next day 10 and the next day 15. And before you know it, they grew right in front of you and you were never so involved other than putting food on the table and a roof over their head.
And I have some parents who come to me and their kids are teenagers, and so we'll be working on certain aspects of communication and learning. And so I would share some of the feedback from the assessment and I'd be like, oh, so-and-so said this and they really enjoyed that. And the parents would look at me and be like, we didn't know that. We didn't know that she enjoyed this. We didn't know that she was afraid of that. We didn't know that he liked to do this. And it really saddens me, but it's okay. All parents have to do is schedule it into your day. So look at my day, and if from 5 to 6 we can go out for a walk. We have the beach, we have parks, we have neighborhoods where we could walk. Take your kids outside. If it's difficult to be inside, distraction free, go outside.
Exactly.
Find time to do fun activities together. It doesn't have to cost a lot of money, but your children are going to remember those memories.
So true. When you think about it, everything revolves. The minute you leave the house, it's money. Entertainment is like on a different level. And then when you go and see a therapist, I'm not picking on you. They'll tell you, go walk on the grass, feel the grass under your feet. Do stuff. But you see, we moved away so much. From
what's normal and natural,
all of that. Many children are labeled as not listening or lazy. What's often actually going on?
Okay, so this is an important one because, and this will also help teachers as well. Sometimes when a child appears to not be listening, following instructions, completing tasks on time, or they're just really acting out and really behavioral, there's usually something going on in the brain that we haven't identified that is a barrier to their learning. So it could be their attention and focus. It could be how they process information. It could be that they're overwhelmed with the lights and the noise in the class. It could be that they're really exhausted, or they're dealing with something emotionally from the home environment, or maybe they had a conflict with a friend. So in these moments, it's really important for teachers and for parents, before we label the child as naughty, not listening. You never listen. Look at me. You need to listen. We hear that so often, but that's also frustration from the adult. But what we need to really look at is, again, first breathe. As the adult, as the teacher, as the parent, do some deep breathing. Your child will learn to co-regulate with you. When you do that, again, make your connection. Listen with your heart, not just with your ears, and be like, okay, what is going on here that is making this child so frustrated that they're acting out? And if you don't know the answer, that's okay. Speak to a professional, speak to the teacher, speak to a speech language pathologist, an occupational therapist, an educational psychologist. And oftentimes you can just have a conversation that doesn't cost you anything, which is really nice, And then you can see that, okay, if I support my child in this area, then we'll prevent that meltdown, we'll prevent that bad behavior. And actually now they're participating and showing me how much they know and how much they want to learn.
Do you know, when you think about it, generally, like Montessori, grade R, and primary school is where educators pick up, whether it's eyesight, whether it's hearing, whether it's speech, whether some barrier. It's the teachers who pick up and not the parents. Like I mentioned this a few times, I'll mention it, it's my real story. My daughter could never ever watch a movie. I always now, maybe if you're an older parent, you think, oh, you just you can't concentrate or something. At school, when she was in grade double R, I think it was at R or double R, her teacher contacted me and told me, we want to meet you. I'm thinking like, what happened? And normally like some schools, they won't tell you. She says, the child writes beautiful. This was like, I think, in grade R. They can do everything, write, color, draw. But when it comes to the work on the board, she doesn't do it. And she did a test with her. And she discovered there's probably something wrong with the child's eyesight. So now, okay, can't be so bad. Maybe she just doesn't match the personality. So I met the teacher. I took her to an optician. Well, this was like, about 5 years ago or so. Then I took her to an ophthalmologist. They put the drops. And she did her eyesight is quite severe. It's like -6 or something. She wears like German lenses, which are even condensed.
Yeah.
And I was like shocked. Imagine, I'm an educator. I talk on school matters like a big shot. Yes, I'm saying that. People contact me for advice now. But I couldn't pick that up in my own child. And she's wearing glasses from the age of 4.5. But just imagine, a teacher is so important. Even if you're a teacher, you can't really see it in your own children.
Yes.
But she, I imagine that teacher, and I'm going to mention her name, Abita Varyawa. She's from Alphala College. I think she's the principal from the grade R. She picked this up. Now imagine if she never picked this up. The child would have gone if the next grade never picked it up. And I would have just thought there's something else, but it wasn't. And alhamdulillah, glasses were like a whole new world for her. From swimming to sports to everything, alhamdulillah, she excels. But it was all because of the teacher who picked it up.
So Sumaya, you make a few valid points, but I'm going to touch on one. Let's look at this from the other side. So this is a happy story because early intervention was done, the problem was identified, parents were supportive, and the child received the help that they need. But what happens now, say if you were in denial or you were afraid of your child wearing glasses?
I'm Sumaya Khan from School Matters. I'm an education activist. I can't have that happening.
Yeah.
But you see,
what will people think if my child is going for speech therapy? What will my family say? What will my in-laws say? Oftentimes, these emotions come up and it's natural and normal, but we shouldn't stop there, because what happens when we stop there is that our children then develop anxiety, low self-esteem, and they think that they can't do something. So it's like, I'm not good at schoolwork. I'm not good at writing. I'm not good at copying from the board. I'm not good at reading. I don't like school. And these are things that are sad because they can be prevented if you support your child early on.
Exactly. So that's where the teacher comes with the sidekick, and that's you. That's why we need the speech pathologist. We'll be taking a short ad break and we will continue.
You are listening to School Matters with Sumaya Khan.
As school opens, School Matters, in partnership with Save Hyper and Radio Al-Ansar, is calling you to help a child step into the new year with confidence. We're collecting school uniforms and school shoes, new or gently used, to support learners in need. Drop off your donations at Save Hyper, 362 Victoria Road, or at Radio Al-Ansar, 240 Ortman Road, Monday to Friday, 9:30 to 3 p.m. Let's come together, uplift our community, and make a real difference, one child at a time. School Matters, Save Hyper, and Radio Al-Ansar, because education starts with dignity.
Welcome to Simplex Radio. Visit our showroom for the full range of car audio. Our TV department carries top brands with quality LED panels, full HD to Ultra HD, and now the experience of Super Ultra HD. Visit our theater rooms and transform your home with brands like Onkyo, Integra, Denon, Boston Acoustics, Yamaha, and more for quality audio visual experience. Now available, full range of home appliances. A one-stop shopping experience. Call 031 306 4029 or Kenilworth Park, 202 Brickfield Road, Overport. Simplex Radio, the name you can trust.
Dreaming of your next getaway? With Show Mirage Travel, the world is within reach. From island escapes in the Maldives, Mauritius, and Seychelles to iconic cities like Dubai, Istanbul, and Egypt, we've got you covered. Sports lover? Catch Formula One, Premier League matches, and major global events live. Whether it's luxury, family adventures, spiritual journeys, or sport travel, we make it seamless and unforgettable. Book now at miragetravel.co.za or call 031 208 4222. Your journey starts here.
Meet the BYD Sea Lion 5, a plug-in hybrid that combines electric range with petrol flexibility. It delivers smooth acceleration, strong fuel savings, and modern safety tech. Or get behind the wheel of the BYD Dolphin Surf, the most affordable EV in South Africa. It offers nimble handling, low running costs, and easy charging. Our experienced team will help you compare specs, financing, and test drives. Drive cleaner, save on running costs. Visit BYD Durban at 950 Mgeni Road to book a test drive today. Proudly part of the Alpine Motor Group.
As school opens, School Matters, in partnership with Save Hyper and Radio Al-Ansar, is calling you to help a child step into the new year with confidence. We're collecting school uniforms and school shoes, new or gently used, to support learners in need. Drop off your donations at Save Hyper 362 Victoria Road or at Radio Al-Ansar 240 Ortman Road, Monday to Friday, 9:30 to 3 p.m. Let's come together, uplift our community, and make a real difference, one child at a time. School Matters, Save Hyper, and Radio Al-Ansar, because education starts with dignity.
You are listening to School Matters with Sumaya Khan.
Subhanallah walhamdulillah.
Assalamu alaikum. Yes, welcome back to School Matters. I think after School Matters show, I'm feeling a little bit positive about school and taking on the children.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, with the help of you, and I know lots of educators are listening right now.
Amazing.
Well, alhamdulillah, Tonight we're exploring why the early school years are so critical for identifying learners with barriers, what early signs and how difficult such as, when it comes to speech and language delays, attention challenges like ADHD, autism, auditory, processing and sensory and motor difficulties can impact on a child's classroom experience. Well, as parents, we cannot see it. We are in denial, some of us. And later on, when we do 100% find out about it, it's a bit too late. When I mean late, years have gone and we did not do any service for the learner. That is why we need people like RAEESA. So, to be there. Because when I first started teaching, and even lots of parents, even individuals, why do we need speech therapists? My child can talk so perfectly well, Ma. Why do they need speech therapists? No, but they don't realize, why do we need a pathologist?
Yes.
But they don't realize the reason. And now you are letting us know.
Yes,
because as I use my own example, as an educator, I never even know my child needed glasses. But another educator found out. And when you think about it, the barriers just goes on and on. There's like so many. How does speech and language difficulties impact reading, writing, and overall learning? I think that one referred to me.
Okay, amazing. So we're going to look at our very young kids. If my child is having difficulty with oral language, so that's speaking, the way we say our sounds and words, the way we put sentences together, the extent of our vocab usage, things like that. And then we look at how we express ourselves, how we tell stories, how we take turns in a conversation, how we ask questions and explore the world. So all of this is looking at oral language, right? And this development really happens early on. It happens like between ages, you would say from 6 months to about 3 years old. If there's problems at this point, that is going to feed into difficulties with reading, writing, and spelling. And that's what parents miss, is that if we have difficulties in oral language, we often see difficulties in literacy. 100%. Say, for example, we don't have difficulties in oral language. So your child is like super talkative and speaks to everybody and is well understood. You could still have difficulties with reading, writing, and spelling. And you will only really find that out when they go to school. That's why it's so important to befriend your child's teacher, because that is really the first point of contact for you to see, does your child need extra support? Exactly. Now, when we look at extra support, it's not to say that there's something wrong with my child. It's not to say that my child needs to be fixed. No, not at all. If we look at, we spoke about matriculants earlier. If we look at children in grade 10, 11, and 12, and if the parents look at, they're doing maths and physics and Afrikaans and they need support, what do? We send them for tuition. We happily send them for extra classes at school, or we drive them personally to a venue for tuition. And that's good. Why do we do that? Because we see that the support they're getting is not enough for them to achieve their best. Now, let's look at a younger child. Why is it that when a child who is 4 or 5 or 6 needs support in learning how to read, write, or spell, or how to put sentences together, or how to follow instructions, suddenly parents become afraid? Why? It's the same thing. Your child is struggling in a part of their development. It doesn't have to remain that way. You can support them, help them. And then what we find, and this is research driven, is that when we do early intervention, children actually bridge those gaps sooner, and then it often filters out into other areas of development. So we don't see difficulty later on in their schooling career. But when we wait and see, and we don't tackle those problems head on, when the teacher says this to us, when we see some difficulty, those are the children who, when we start intervention 2 or 3 years later, it actually takes a longer time.
Exactly.
It's more difficult. And now there's all of this anxiety and low self-esteem that's set in that you have to undo. So there really is, when you look at it, there's no drawback to starting intervention early.
Exactly. You know, what are the early signs or early learning barriers related to ADHD that teachers and parents often miss? You know what we teachers say? All the children are ADHD. Well, that's all the sugar intake in today and diet.
So I think we need to have a program on just ADHD, because we could speak about that so extensively. But let's look at it in the classroom environment. So what are the first signs you would see? I think there's a lot of misconception that ADHD is just hyperactivity and kids bouncing off the walls and not being able to sit still. Yes, that's one part of it. But oftentimes, and I find this especially with girls, we miss ADHD because they behave really nicely and they sit in their chairs.
You wouldn't say, huh?
And they don't disrupt the teacher and they don't fight with their friend. And so we miss it. But actually they're daydreaming, or they're anxious and they're struggling to follow the instructions, and they're struggling to focus and complete tasks. So they have low motivation. But they mask it so well that we miss that. So some of the things parents need to look out for is, look at the child holistically. Do they have friends? How do they get on with their friends? When the teacher gives work, do they finish it in good time, or do they need extra time? When they get homework, do they forget the homework book at home, or does it actually come home? When they're following a group conversation, do they participate enthusiastically, or is it that they're actually interrupting before the other person has finished their sentence? Things like that are subtle signs that we miss, because we only look for the obvious ones, where the child can't sit still, can't finish their work, is fighting with the kid next to them.
Ritalin, the famous word, Ritalin. It's so important even for educators to be educated in this area. Not only if you're a teacher from a special school or whatever, but even a mainstream teacher, because then you have a bit of understanding. Because like when you think about it, it's like, no, the process, a child just can't take Ritalin. A child just can't go and take some kind of medication to basically lay there like a vegetable.
ADHD is not a Ritalin deficiency.
It's not.
It's not.
That's a whole different show on its own.
That is a different show.
A whole different show on its own. Tell me, autism. How can autism present as learning and communication barriers in mainstream classrooms?
Okay. So the key here is that it's mainstream. So oftentimes, again, with autism, there are different levels and it is a spectrum. And each child or person who has autism will experience different strengths and challenges. So when we're looking at mainstream school, we're looking at children who either have been diagnosed and can cope with the current curriculum in a mainstream school, or actually, and this is in my experience, they haven't been diagnosed because their signs are so subtle. But as the grades get higher, the difficulty becomes more obvious.
And there's different spectrums, am I right?
Yeah, there's different levels of functioning.
Now, I never really knew this for maybe the last 15 years, maybe or so. You think if someone's autism or they're autistic, they scream, they shout, they wail, they off the rails, but they're not all autistic children are like
not
that.
always, not all. So if we look at mainstream schooling, then it's probably kids who can cope academically. So their marks might be fine. They might actually even be getting A's in some of their subjects. But maybe they don't have many friends, or maybe they just play with one child, or maybe they seem really withdrawn and anxious, or they have difficulty. So say, for example, and I've had this recently, this child who dad always drops off in the morning to school and mom always picks up, and that's the routine. But dad was unwell and unable to take the child to school, and so mom had to do the morning drop off. And this child became so emotional, so overwhelmed, could not settle into class because the routine was disrupted. This child at the time did not have an autism diagnosis. So things like difficulty with transitions, emotional regulation, sensory processing, how we look at language and learning in the classroom are things that teachers would be aware of or need to be aware of to pick up, but also parents.
You know, I was reading an article in the UK. Apparently, a new research shows that autism is on the rise due to lifestyle, due to diet of the parent, environment. And I was like quite amazed.
Yeah.
And then they say like your diet of a child who's autistic can make such a big difference in the motor skills. And one wouldn't say, huh?
Absolutely.
It does.
Yes.
We're running short of time, so let's go over quickly motor and sensory difficulties, how it affects learning and written work in a child. Because generally when you tend to call a parent, your child can't cope, and you try to explain to a parent, if a teacher is well versed in this, the writing, explains a lot of what's going on.
Yes. Okay, so very simply, if my child has beautiful writing but takes really long to complete their work and they need extra time constantly, that's a sign. If they get fatigued, tired when writing, if their writing is really untidy or they can't get the direction of the letters correct, if they're slumped over in their chair, if posture is a problem, if they're fidgeting, unable to sit in the chair because of core strength. So these are some of the things. And then on the playground, you would look at like, how are they with their gross motor movements, playing on the jungle gym, doing obstacle courses. And if you see, as a teacher, if you see difficulties here, we have checklists that we use, and then we would call parents in and ask for an assessment.
Rounding up, what should parents and teachers do if they suspect a barrier in learning?
Okay, the first thing is trust your intuition. Ask Allah for guidance, and then go and speak to the professional. So speak to the teacher, speak to the speech language pathologist, the occupational therapist, the educational psychologist, because these are the people who are going to make all of the difference in your child's academic trajectory and their personal growth.
RAEESA, your details, email address, if listeners would like to contact you.
Yes, of course. So it's my name, RAEESA, RAEESA.SLP@gmail.com. That's raeesa.slp@gmail.com.
RAEESA, Jazakallah, we have so many different topics in this one topic, which we're going to dissect during the course of the year. So you better be available to come to school at 7 o'clock at night. But Jazakallah so much for taking the time. I know you all are also going back to schools and works, and you all are still working and stuff like that. But to come here this evening, and may the Almighty reward you abundantly, because you're so passionate in what you're doing. You can just feel it. And I know our listeners who are listening can just listen it. Well, Jazakallah so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome.
I'm excited to come back again.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Well, as you heard what I told Hafiz Wali, I adopt people, and those other people are you. It's based on energy and vibes. And I know Zach is nodding over there. Listeners, 23rd of January, Friday, we're honoring the grade 12 learners. So if you are a matric learner or a principal or an educator or a parent where your child or school did well, contact me, email me, sumayakhan.alansar@outlook.com, because we want you to be part of our special event. So do not forget that. As we come to an end of tonight's discussion, the key message is clear. When it comes to children and learning, early awareness and early support makes all the difference. Difficulties with learning, attention, communication, or behavior are not a reflection of a child's intelligence or effort. They are a signal that a child may need understanding, guidance, and the right support. So labeling children as lazy or disruptive can delay help, but listening closely, observing carefully, and acting early can change a child's entire learning journey. Well, the child's entire learning journey can be changed, and in the early school years offers a powerful window of opportunities to identify barriers and put strategies into place before frustration, anxiety, or low self-esteem takes root. To parents and teachers, trust your instincts. If something doesn't feel right, ask questions, seek professional advice, as Sister RAEESA, pathologist, told us. Ask questions, seek professional advice again, and work together as a team. Support does not mean something is wrong with your child. It means something is wrong with your child, and you are going to make a difference. It means you are giving them the tools they need to succeed. From me, Sumaya Khan, this has been School Matters on Radio Al-Ansar on 90.4 FM in Durban and 105.6 FM in Pietermaritzburg. May we continue to support our children with patience, compassion, and early intervention. And to all the learners out there and educators, all the best for 2026. It's quite hot, so I would say put some sunscreen in the classroom. Assalamu alaikum.